So here's the thing most people fundamentally misunderstand about airports. They think of them as infrastructure, a place you have to go through, a necessary evil between you and your vacation or your business meeting. And that's exactly the thinking that makes airports so incredibly powerful as businesses. Because the moment you walk through those doors, you've essentially surrendered your time, your attention, and most importantly, your wallet. Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta, let's just call it Atlanta Airport from here on, figured this out decades before anyone else did. And the way they've architected their entire operation around that insight is genuinely fascinating. Because this isn't just an airport that makes money. It's an airport that has been deliberately designed to extract value at every single touch point. And we're going to break down exactly how they do it. From the obvious stuff you already know about, to the stuff happening completely behind the scenes that you'd never guess. But first, let's set the stage with some numbers, because the scale here is almost incomprehensible. Atlanta Airport consistently handles somewhere between 93 and 104 million passengers per year. That's more than the entire population of Germany walking through one building annually. It has over 200 gates. It employs, directly or indirectly, over 63,000 people. And it generates somewhere north of $700 million in annual revenue for the city of Atlanta. Let me say that again. For the city, not just for the airport as an entity, for the actual municipal government of Atlanta. And here's the wild part. Atlanta itself has a population of around 500,000 people. So you have a city roughly the size of Kansas City, pulling in airport revenue that most major global financial hubs would be jealous of. That's the empire we're talking about. Okay, so the first thing you need to understand is that Atlanta Airport operates like one of the most sophisticated commercial landlords in the world. The airport itself doesn't run most of the businesses inside it. They lease space to businesses. And those lease agreements are structured in a way that's honestly kind of genius. When a retailer or restaurant wants to open up inside the airport, they don't just pay a flat rent like you would for a normal commercial space. They typically pay a base rent plus a percentage of their gross sales. So when that Chick-fil-A inside Concourse B is absolutely slammed at noon on a Tuesday, and it always is, the airport gets a cut of every single chicken sandwich sold. Now multiply that across hundreds of vendors. You've got your newsstands, your luxury retail, your fast food, your sit-down restaurants, your coffee shops. Atlanta has brands like CNN, Echo, and a whole variety of local Atlanta businesses represented in there. And every one of them is kicking back a percentage of revenue to the airport authority. The airport collected roughly $200 million just from concessions and retail in recent pre-pandemic years. That's before we even talk about airlines. And the airline relationships are their own whole fascinating chapter. Airlines pay airports in a few different ways. There are landing fees, literally a fee charged every time a plane touches down on one of Atlanta's 5 runways. Those fees are calculated based on the weight of the aircraft. A fully loaded 747 touching down generates a very different fee than a regional jet. And with over 2,500 daily flights running through Atlanta, those landing fees stack up fast. Then there are gate fees. Airlines lease their gates from the airport. Delta, which basically uses Atlanta as its home base, they have something like 70% of the gates there, pays substantial lease fees for that real estate. And because Delta has made Atlanta its hub, the airport has extraordinary leverage. You want access to 100 million passengers a year? You're going to pay for that privilege. Think about what Atlanta Airport actually is from a strategic standpoint. It's a platform, like Amazon Marketplace or the App Store. They own the infrastructure, they control access, and they take a cut from everyone who wants to participate. Airlines, retailers, restaurants, car rental companies, everyone pays a toll to reach that audience of 100 million people. That's not airport management, that's platform economics. All right, let's talk about parking, because I think this is the one that surprises people the most when they actually look at the numbers. Atlanta Airport has over 30,000 parking spaces across multiple facilities. Economy lots, covered parking, premium parking, rental car facilities. And the pricing is tiered pretty aggressively. You want to park close? You're going to pay for that convenience. You want to save money? You're hiking from the economy lot. The airport's parking operation generates somewhere around $100 million per year, just from parking. Now, think about the economics of parking for a second. Once you've built the structure, yes, it's a big capital cost, the ongoing overhead is relatively modest. You need some staff, some maintenance, payment infrastructure. But the margins on parking revenue are substantial. It's one of the cleanest, most reliable revenue streams the airport has because it doesn't fluctuate nearly as much as retail or food and beverage. And here's the thing. They've been smart about it. They don't just offer one flat rate. They've created a whole menu of options that serve different customer psychology. The person flying out for a week of business wants covered parking close to the terminal. They'll pay the premium. The family going on vacation for 2 weeks is going to take the shuttle from the economy lot to save $80. The airport profits from both of them. That's price discrimination in the most textbook, beautiful sense of the term. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting to me, and where most business coverage of airports just completely drops the ball. Advertising. Walk through Atlanta Airport and look at everything around you with fresh eyes. The walls, the floors, the overhead screens, the Wi-Fi login page, the moving walkways. Every single one of those surfaces is a potential ad unit, and the airport sells them. You have 100 million pairs of eyeballs moving through your building every year, and a lot of them are bored and waiting. That's an advertiser's dream demographic. Atlanta pulls in tens of millions annually just from advertising partnerships and sponsorships. Ground transportation fees. Every Uber, every Lyft, every taxi, every shuttle service that picks someone up at the curb, they pay the airport a fee. Every single ride. It sounds small until you realize how many rides originate from an airport with 100 million passengers. It adds up to millions of dollars. The hotel. Atlanta Airport has the Marriott Gateway on site. Revenue from that flows back in various ways through the airport's real estate arrangements. Cargo operations. People think of airports as moving people, but Atlanta also processes significant cargo volumes. FedEx, UPS, freight carriers, they all pay for access to facilities and runways. What Atlanta Airport has really mastered, and this is the strategic insight that I think is worth more than any individual revenue number, is the concept of the captive audience. Once you are inside that airport, your options are constrained. You can't leave to get cheaper coffee. You can't really walk somewhere else. You're there. You have time to kill, and you have specific needs. Food, entertainment, maybe a charger, maybe a neck pillow because you forgot yours. The airport creates the environment in which those needs get met, and they design that environment intentionally to maximize your spending. There's actual retail science that goes into the layout. The flow of foot traffic through concourses, where the food is placed, how the lighting works. This isn't accidental. International airports have been studying and optimizing this for decades. Heathrow in London, Singapore's Changi Airport, Dubai International. But Atlanta has taken those principles and applied them at a scale and consistency that's genuinely impressive. The reason that $14 sandwich feels unavoidable is because it is unavoidable. And that's not an accident. That's engineering. Now, here's the bigger takeaway. This blueprint, captive audience, platform economics, multiple revenue layers, price discrimination, It's not exclusive to airports. It's showing up everywhere. Sports stadiums, theme parks, shopping malls, concert venues, even digital platforms. Every time you're inside an ecosystem where someone else controls the environment, there's a version of this business model at work. Understanding it doesn't just make you a smarter traveler, it makes you a smarter business thinker. Because whether you're building a product, a service, or a physical space, asking yourself, where is the captive audience moment in my business, is one of the most valuable strategic questions you can ask. Let's come back to that point I made earlier, that this revenue flows to the city of Atlanta. The Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport is owned and operated by the City of Atlanta. It's a municipal airport, which means all of this empire building, all of these revenue streams, ultimately funds city services, city infrastructure, city employees. It's a public asset that has been run with a level of commercial sophistication that puts a lot of private businesses to shame. And that raises a genuinely interesting question for how we think about public infrastructure broadly. We tend to think of public infrastructure as a cost center, something taxpayers fund, something government runs, usually inefficiently. But Atlanta's airport is proof that when you combine public ownership with serious commercial discipline, you can create something that actually funds the city, rather than draining it. There are real debates about how the revenue gets distributed, who benefits, whether workers at the airport are compensated fairly. Those are real and important conversations. But purely from a business model standpoint, the architecture of this thing is remarkable. It's one building, one location, and it has built a diversified, resilient, multi-hundred-million-dollar revenue engine out of the simple fact that people have to move through it. So let's land the plane. Pun absolutely intended. The world's busiest airport became a business empire through a few core principles that honestly apply to any business. 1. Control the environment. When you control the context in which people make decisions, you have enormous pricing and behavioral power. 2. Layer your revenue. Atlanta doesn't rely on any single stream. Airlines, retail, parking, advertising, ground transport, each one is a layer. If one weakens, the others hold. That's resilience. 3. Think like a platform. You don't have to do everything yourself. Bring other businesses into your ecosystem, take a cut, and let them do the work of serving customers. 4. Captive audience moments are golden. Find the moment in your business when someone needs you and can't easily go elsewhere. That's where margin lives. The next time you're sitting in an airport, overpriced coffee in hand, watching your gate change for the 3rd time, just remember, that chaos, that inconvenience, it's happening inside one of the most intentionally designed commercial ecosystems ever built. You're not just passing through, you're participating in someone's business model. And honestly, respecting that a little bit, learning from it, is worth a lot more than being annoyed by the $6 water bottle. If this kind of breakdown is your thing, where we pull back the curtain on how businesses and systems actually work, hit subscribe, because we do this every week. Real business mechanics, no fluff. I'll see you in the next one.